Tom, actually, it ties in very well. It's 50% of what we do as chiropractors. And to talk to my colleagues out there, I want to get a little more technical with this as how it relates to the nervous system, nutritional cleansing. In chiropractic, what we do is we take care of the spine, primarily the joints of the spine, and we want to keep those joints mobile. So when those joints get fixated, we call that a subluxation. And when there's a subluxation, the joints are fixated, there's no joint movement. So there's mechanoreceptors in the joints that every time you move, they get stimulated. So for instance, way back 50, 100 years ago, before we had all these modern medications, people would get in people would get into a rocking chair to rock to introduce motion into the spine. That motion would help dampen pain. So that's the reason the old folks got into the rocking chairs. Now we have all these high-powered drugs that I'm not mentioning any names, but they're NSAIDs or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They use those today. But going back to the chiropractic explanation is when we adjust the joint, we restore motion, because when the joint is fixated, the mechanoreceptors in the joint don't get fired. If those mechanoreceptors aren't firing, they don't stimulate the large diameter 1A nerve fibers. Those large diameter 1A nerve fibers, what they do when they're firing normally, when your joints are moving normally, they inhibit the C fibers. The C fibers are the fibers that carry pain throughout your body. Now, if you have a joint that's fixated, that's stuck, it needs to be adjusted, those mechanoreceptors don't fire. And then what happens is the large diameter 1A fibers don't fire, so the C fibers don't get inhibited, the pain fibers, and they fire over time. And those C fibers, they feed pain back into the spinal cord and then up through a tract called the lateral spinothalamic tract. That tract ends up in the brain, in the parietal area. It tells you where the pain is located. And along the way, it also stimulates parasympathetic ganglia in the brain, and it also stimulates or overstimulates the sympathetic nervous system. And when you have sympathetic windup, it's called, overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, what happens is we have digestive problems, we have problems with heart rhythm, sleep difficulties. Your body just can't function normally, and my chiropractic colleagues out there know what I'm talking about. But let's say, for instance, you have the spine adjusted, the joints are mobile, but you have a lot of toxins sitting around the C fibers that cause pain. So your spine's fine, you don't really need any chiropractic care, but because of the toxins that we encounter, 82,000 a week on average, these toxins are around that C fiber, irritating the C fiber. It causes the same cascade of events where the C fiber gets stimulated and it runs up through the lateral spinothalamic tract and then it ends up in the parietal lobe of the brain to localize, tell you where the pain is, and it also causes overstimulation of the parasympathetic ganglia in the brain and overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, resulting once again in sympathetic windup, which causes the same problems: increased pain, vasoconstriction, abnormal digestion, maybe possibly abnormal heart rhythm, sleep difficulties, and so on. So you see, cleansing fits in perfectly with the chiropractic practice model, and it is absolutely 50% of what we do as chiropractors.